Hey listeners, it's Landon here. I just wanted to let you all know that the following recording was made in a different room than I usually record in, so if you're wearing headphones, you might notice a slight reverb, but I hope you enjoy this episode. There are kids in this world who are different. Special.
There are these kids out there somewhere. What do your calls them for? Why is it always 6 minutes?
In this episode, I'll be breaking down the latest episode of 6 Minutes Season 4, piece by piece. Well, hello, Review Pop listeners, it's Cyrus and Mueller. Now, we are here today to talk about episode 45 of 6 Minutes, Season 4, called Checking It Out, Neverland. And we are joined here by one of the head writers of 6 Minutes who has put together countless outlines for episodes, Tom Casiello. Hey Tom, how you doing?
I'm doing well, how are you?
Awesome. Yeah, I'm doing great. It's so great to have you on the show, and this is an interview that I've wanted to do for a really long time, and you really made the show what it is, so I think it's so great.
Oh, thank you. I'm honored. I'm flattered.
Yeah.
6 Minutes is very near and dear to my heart. I had no idea when we started that it was going to turn into this. Not a clue. So it's pretty amazing to watch.
I don't think anyone could have ever imagined that it'd become, what it has.
Yeah, it's funny. When Dave and I first started, I remember very early on in the process, we were still trying to figure out who the characters were and how many siblings there were. I mean, we were talking like nothing was really done yet. And I remember Dave saying to me that the thing about podcasts is that most of them don't find an audience until after they're over. So, he prepared me. He said, listen, just so you know, chances are not many people are going to have heard of this when it comes out. And we probably won't hear about it until it's all over and people start talking about it. And so there was this real delayed reaction, in people kind of discovering it and jumping on board. So it was really cool. I think we had just finished writing the first podcast, the first series, when schools started to pick up on it and teachers started to use it. And that was really just mind-blowing to witness, 3 years after we had started, writing it.
I think that's awesome for sure. And, well, I mean, I think, it picked up, a good amount of traction at the start, but, things really blew up after that for sure, right? Because I remember it was I think #1 on Apple Podcasts, for fiction when it first came out, but it's gone so far beyond that, and I think it's just great.
Yeah, it's just been really humbling and really awesome just to see. And everybody who worked on it, on that first series, it's such a great group of people and such a great vibe among that cast. And I think you probably talked about this with Dave when you interviewed him, but part of the joy of 6 Minutes was that we recorded with the Anders family all in person, all at the same time. So James, Monica, Cyrus, Brinley, Holiday, they were all in the studio together playing off of each other. And that I think made all the difference, because you listen to those early family scenes and there's such a great vibe between them. You can feel the connection between them.
Yeah. So, we have some questions today before we get into the episode. And, my first question is really, I'm wondering how you got, interested in working on 6 Minutes, and you kind of touched on that, but you have, of course, worked on many kinds of projects. I thought it was so cool to hear about, how you worked on Apex Legends, which is something that, I used to play, and so I thought that was so cool, and, you work in a lot of awesome spaces, but what sparked your interest in 6 Minutes and working on that project?
So I started my career writing soap operas, and that's where I first met Dave, and Dave and I worked on sister shows. I worked on As the World Turns, he worked on Guiding Light, and they were both owned by Procter & Gamble, so we would have our Christmas parties together and whatnot. And so I knew Dave. I never worked with him, but I knew him, and we got along great. And then years later, when I became a writer at WWE, Dave ended up randomly being hired there I was there for 6 years, and in my 4th year, I believe, Dave was hired as head writer, and which is great because I knew him from soaps, and so like when I left WWE, I moved from New York to Los Angeles. I wanted to get out of TV, and I was looking for work. This is before Apex. I was looking for work, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do yet for work, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And Dave contacted me about a month after I got to Los Angeles, and he said, I'm starting this company. We're going to do podcasts. We're going to do kids podcasts. I really want to do like an ongoing one where we do 2 episodes a week, and it's this ongoing kind of serialized form. And he said, I thought of you immediately, and I knew you were looking for work. And I said, okay, well, what's it about? And he said, well, I don't really know totally what it's about. He goes, I know that it's going to start with finding this girl in the water, and that we have like an organization that's chasing her, and I think I know what her secret is. Yeah, that's about all I have. And I said, okay, well, I wasn't working at the time, and I needed money, and I thought, well, why not? I'll give this a shot. I've never written for podcasts before, but this could be interesting. And so Dave and I started working on outlines. We got 2 scriptwriters who also worked in soaps. And so we hired Marla and Nitty, and I think we had written the first 100 episodes before we even recorded one. We had gotten all the way through the introduction of Whittier Corp and the flashcard stuff and science fair, and we had just burned down the house, and the family was on the run, and I thought, we haven't even recorded an episode yet. Like, I have no idea if this is good or bad or what, but we're gonna see how it goes. And so we recorded the first 20, and I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't that. I was blown away. I had no idea that Chris and the sound quality was going to be so incredibly strong. It was so real. It was so immersive. I remember crying in those first 20 episodes because I was so I can't believe how real this is. I can't believe how solid this is and how I don't miss images. It's I'm so used to watching TV and I don't miss it at all. This is great.
Yeah, you tell such a big story and, it's impacted so many people in a way that's almost hard to describe because it's a one-of-a-kind show, and I don't think there will ever be anything, quite like 6 Minutes, and I think it's really just so great, for sure.
Thanks. Thank you so much for saying that. Yeah. I feel the same way.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's awesome. Yeah, well, the next question I've asked to everyone who's been on the show, what was the first radio drama or audio drama you listened to, right? When I had David Kreisman on the podcast, he mentioned that the first audio drama he really worked on was for an anniversary episode of Guiding Light, which originally started off as, a radio drama. So, I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, he did a special episode of Guiding Light where he kind of went back and kind of revisited those characters. What was the first one? I mean, I remember as a kid, my dad, who was really into old radio dramas from the 50s, the Green Hornet and the Shadow, and there was another one. There was a comedy one. He would play those in the car, and I would listen to them. I don't think I listened to another one again until Dave called me and said, do you want to do this? And at that time, there was a podcast out called, I'm not going to remember the name of it. It was a spooky podcast. It was really popular, and I'm trying to remember the name of it. I listened to a few episodes of that to kind of get a feel for what it is Dave was looking for. But other than that, I can't think of any other ones that I listened to.
When 6 Minutes in, or even going back to Mars Patel started, there wasn't a lot of, audio dramas out there. And since then, it's definitely blown up.
I still feel like when I tell people that I'm the head writer for 6 Minutes, and they're like, oh, what's 6 Minutes? And I try to explain it to them, there's still a bit of confusion. Wait, what do you mean you write podcasts? Like you write the interview questions? I'm like, no, it's not an interview. It's a story. It's all scripted. It's fiction.
Yeah. All right. Well, next question. When I had Dave on the podcast back in May, he noted that, 6 Minutes is sort of a short soap opera. And, I bring that up because, I'm curious if there are any aspects of, writing soaps that you use on 6 Minutes, right? Would you say it's pretty similar? And in what ways is writing 6 Minutes different?
In soaps, there's 2 different writing teams. There's an outline team and there's a dialogue script team. And when we started this, we just thought, well, we're used to the soap format, so we might as well just do the soap format. So I would write all the outlines, and then once Dave approved them, then we would send them to Nidhi and Marla to be script writers and to turn it into scripts. And so we kind of kept to that process, and it still works.
I'm curious about, your writing for season 4 and, maybe also season 3. How has that writing been different from, previous seasons? You kind of touched about that. But, the next part, right, the story arcs are a lot different between, or from, seasons 1 and 2.
It is much more so than the first series. The first series, I would turn in an outline to the script writers, a completed outline, and 9 times out of 10, it was exactly what ended up going into the podcast episode. Like, I would listen to the podcast episode 2 months later when it came out, and it was exactly what was in my outline. This series, the sequel, has been a constantly changing, constantly evolving process because, well, numerous reasons. Like, we are dealing with people's schedules they're all adults now. They all have like crazy schedules. They all live in different parts of the country. They can't record at certain times. Because of that, and because schedules have been so wonky, there have been times where we can't get a character for an episode. And Dave, at the last minute on his own, will have to rewrite the whole episode from scratch and come up with a different episode that doesn't involve this character or that character, which changes everything in every episode after that. And so, like, I'll get these emails from Dave going, just so you know, I had to rewrite these 4 episodes and they're completely different now. And, like, definitely go back and read them because they're not what you had in the outlines. I've really had to stay on top of things and be like, okay, what did we end up going with here? Where are we? Like, what, And Dave's great. I love working with Dave because he's with any other producer / co-head writer, it could be disastrous. But Dave always keeps me up to speed on the changes, and he always like comes through and explains to me why things changed. And it's not because the story's not good; it's just because of scheduling and whatnot. So I've had to stay on my toes with this series a lot more than I did in the first one.
Yeah, for sure. All right, now we're gonna get into the clips from the episode.
Yeah.
Here we go with the first clip.
Why?
It's hard to explain, but this could be the key to saving your life.
Well, maybe I don't want to be saved like this.
Adelaide.
You can't treat people this way. What kind of person are you?
Yeah, I mean, the thing I loved about always writing Dr. Whittier is this is a man who ruined countless lives. I mean, he has he's done so much damage to so many people, and it's all because he loves his daughter too much. Like, this is my favorite kind of villain. My favorite kind of villain is the kind of villain that isn't a bad person necessarily. It's just they're doing all of the wrong things for the right reasons, and it was really important to us. If we were going back to the 80s, it was really important to us to kind of introduce Adelaide as a real character. Because she is so important to this story, but she really is just a story that's told in the first podcast. We don't meet her. We don't know anything about her other than she died young, and that's all we know.
Yeah, I think that's definitely... It was such a, big part of the story. And I remember, thinking about, for like kind of almost... a little bit during, like, Cyrus the Lost Tapes. I remember both me and, like, fans thinking, all right, maybe this is Adelaide.
That was kind of intentional. We were kind of hoping people would think she was Adelaide.
Yeah. And I love the character of Angel, and I think that was, like, something that, I think both me and, like, so many fans have been happy with. The fact that we get to, like, revisit Angelica Graves in, like, a different sort of way.
I don't feel...
Adelaide!
Adelaide, no! Adelaide!
Let me in! Let me save her!
Oh, yes.
There's a big question mark here because, Monica's working really hard to save this girl's life, but that comes with consequences.
And I think it'll be really interesting to see how Dr. Whittier handles this. Also, I love how Monica comes to Adelaide's aid, right? She's always trying to, help others before herself.
I don't want to spoil anything, but there's things that are happening right now that you don't even realize are happening that are going to come back and haunt people later. which I think is a lot of fun and really great. It's one of the fun things about time travel you can do is you can mess with things. So
We're not regular humans.
Wit kids? Cybot, you brought wit kids here?
No, just run-of-the-mill time travelers.
Oh, good.
Point is, we don't have a home.
I think it's interesting that Cam still holds a grudge against Wit Kids even after, getting to know Casey. Of course, for a time, Casey was forced to be a person she wasn't. She didn't get to make her own choices. So I think Cam relates to that, but, she still considers Neverland to be, the Bot's Island. I'm curious, why did, was it kind of hard to do, kind of a long build-up like this? Because I think there's been a build-up since, an episode in, the 20s range.
Yeah, and this is all building to the finale. I think there's only,
6 or 7 episodes left, I think.
Yeah, we're almost there, and kind of getting everybody into one place was definitely, I'll be honest with you, I'm not even sure how some of it got pulled off. I know Dave had to do some last minute rewrites, but trying to get this entire cast of characters to all end up in the same location, it was a logistical nightmare. Especially because most of them are in Alaska, which is about as far away from Neverland as you can get. Trying to make this all happen and have everybody converge in the same location. Yeah, it has been a real,
Did someone say Elixir Academy? You know it?
Who's this?
Hi, sorry. I'm Mila. You guys were at Elixir Academy?
We showed up after it was already gone. Why?
Do you happen to know someone named Katie?
And it's kind of funny because I was talking about Cam 97, aka Mila, in the last episode. And, so I think that, now that she's back, asking about Katie is a good sign because it shows that she still cares about Katie and, hopes to see her again.
Yep.
And so that's another thing that I'm sure you guys work to wrap up for this season, getting, them to see each other once again because that was kind of a big part of the end of last season.
Yeah, it was. And it's the moment that I feel humanizes Katie the most in the first season and the second. It's what makes you root for her. Brinley is antagonist for so long, and much like Brinley in the first series, we needed something to kind of anchor Katie, down to make her seem more three-dimensional and less always, the pain in the butt that she is, and somebody who you're rooting for and that you want to see succeed in life. And Mila was kind of the way in with that, and she's been hurt and she's been abandoned and by many people in her life.
I was just wondering if I could get you some more hot cocoa. You still look kind of cold.
Oh. Sorry. Yes. Thank you.
I think there's a lot you can take from that, and I love their awkwardness. I mean, it's great. Most of the time, they've resorted to fighting or making fun of each other, but we're seeing a real shift. I think a while back, I was talking about older Joe, and, in the beginning, he was kind of seen as, just being one person, right? Being, that country guy. And he's a lot more than that, right? He's very loving.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because from Katie's perspective, what do you do when you know what your whole future is, or you think you know what your whole future is, and then you meet the guy that you're gonna marry? I think she played that awkwardness beautifully. It's a weird situation, and she knows it's weird, and same thing with River and Sam, and kind of.
And it's hard to think about knowing that their whole life is laid out for them.
No one knows better than me that biology isn't what makes your parents. Your parents.
I know.
But do you? I mean, one of my daughters isn't even human.
We're seeing such a great relationship between James and Brinley, and I mean, it's kind of similar to when Holiday found out that she was made of Cyrus's blood, but James said, we've always been a family and we don't need blood to prove that.
Yeah, and that was really important to us to kind of make clear. We didn't want to. I remember we debated that beat a lot in the first series with Cyrus, the reveal that it was Cyrus's blood, and because we didn't want to send the message that oh, well, Holiday, isn't really adopted because she came from Cyrus, and so therefore she is biologically connected to them, and so, something that's really important to all of us as writers. One of our script writers has an adopted daughter, and it was really important to her to play this stuff and to keep it as true to life as possible, and and to not send any wrong messages here. And I applaud her for writing these episodes and for keeping that so alive, because it's so important to the story.
You aren't even from 1989.
I am treating your daughter. Is this really a good time to discuss?
That Cyrus is your son, Dr. Anders.
This kind of changes everything. Does Dr. Whittier still trust Cyrus enough to, let him cure Adelaide, let him help, at least? And, I'd imagine so, because right after this clip, Dr. Whittier said that Cyrus won't be safe unless, Adelaide is cured, and that's that's a really big thing.
It is, and I think, like I was saying before about, the through line of the Whittier character, this version of Whittier is all about his daughter, and I think that's the really interesting thing about playing Jude and Dr. Whittier at the same time in the series, because you have a man who is all about his little girl and all about protecting her at all costs and using anybody and everybody, to make sure that she is safe. And then you have the Dr. Whittier before he had a daughter. He has a very different set of priorities and a very different set of rules that he plays by, because he hasn't had that life-changing experience of having a kid.
What's happening?
Time for a rescue.
Well then, I'm coming with you. Oh no, not now! Fight it, stay in the moment, for Cyrus.
Yeah, I love how, little Bryn kept coming back. I think at first I was like, okay, maybe she'll be in a couple episodes, but, it's definitely turned into a bigger thing, and I think it's great. Hey, well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. Thank you so much, for, taking the time to, answer these questions. And I love how involved you've been with the show. And, you've really been such a big part of the show and making it, what it is. And so I thank you so much. It was so awesome.
Thank you. I thank you to all the fans. I hope we don't disappoint as in the rest of season 4 and season 5. I think you're in for a heck of a ride, and enjoy, please.
Until next time, this is Landon saying peace, love, and time travel.